executive has 13 functions. None of them is to make a budget. None of them take foreign policy on their own. None of them is for what he's doing now. There's no such thing as executive orders. None. Executive orders are only supposed to be orders within the executive branch to execute the laws Congress passes. The judicial branch has 6 functions and no power to enforce their opinion. And the Congress is over the Supreme Court if they step out of bounds. Supposed to be. The contract is there. We allowed that. Since 1937, Congress, the Supreme Court has only said 2 things are unconstitutional that Congress has passed. How about Obamacare? The conservative Judge Roberts. See, they have no power. Dean Kramer at Stanford in 2004, Stanford Law School president, the most conservative place, said the ultimate authority on something's constitutional law is the individual. Now this is where everybody in our state legislation, McCrory to Tillis to Stam, all will disagree 1,000%, and they're wrong, because I'm quoting Madison and Iredell. Because the question is, what happens if tomorrow, by executive order or the Congress passes a law that you're allowed 1 child? What we do? What's the process if Congress usurps their power? The state bucks up. The 10th Amendment says, and Jefferson and Madison said, interposition. They're duty-bound to be protective shields to protect the individual from the leviathan of the federal government. That's it. You say no. You say no. Where are those people? Well, Alabama said no to Obamacare. South Carolina did. Why didn't we? Tom Tillis made state exchanges. And now said he's fighting against Obamacare. So that's why knowing the contract. Okay, you're going to play golf today. You're going to play golf today. We're going to play for $5 in Minnesota. And I start changing the rules as we go along. What would you do? Either beat me up or not play no more. See, we think, like again, I go back to this whole primary session, and then we got willing to pass it like this Hagen. Every single issue we have is because Congress was not chained to their enumerated powers. Whose fault is that? That's what makes it so fun. Once you know the rules, they get scared. And nobody's probably scared. They have no. Everybody goes, I'm against Common Core. Really? What would you do? Why? Well, I want this. Why? I come Obamacare. I've had everybody say Obamacare has some good things. The 26 years of age, the pre-existing. You know, you change one word to the insurance plan, there's no more pre-existing. It's a scam to bring people in. But we always think, though, if the general government does not do something, it won't be done. There were no doctors before. In 1965, the Medicaid and Medicare got through. It said that the government wasn't projections. In 1965, they projected in 2009, Medicaid would cost a certain amount of money. They were only off by 913%. That's 9-fold. Medicaid, they were off by 1,700%. So, the question is, what do? We cry in the corner, we cry because no, we stand up and say no. And for those who say, you're wrong, Greg, I'll debate them. I've been doing that. And you saw what happened when Tom said the federal government can actually control control handguns, control self-defense. No, that's a sheriff role. It's a local state role. It's not a federal function. So that's what this primacy is so great. It's exposing people that are running for an office that did not put their skin in the game, that did not study and read this stuff. Giving the Constitution lip service is complete arrogance or ignorance. Either way, unacceptable. Yes, ma'am.
What is your stand on the gun control?
Okay, this is a beautiful question. You gotta get a chance. Go to our webpage. There's a beautiful. I said this on the debate time winner. Okay, from the very beginning, the Constitution is here. It changed the federal government. The Bill of Rights is a list of things that the federal government can never infringe upon. Number 2 is the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment actually articulates God's first natural law. The first 3 natural laws are personal security, personal liberty, and private property. You can't have the other 2 without that one. So the federal government has no role over here. None. So the answer is at the federal level, 0. 1 law is too many. Our local sheriff can handle that. Our state can handle that. That's what we think about is, oh, if DC doesn't do it, it won't be done. Really?
Other than securing the border, how would you stop this wave of illegal immigration?
It's very important. I got mocked on this by the Charlotte Observer because Greg quoted, it's funny, he goes, Greg quoted the Constitution 9 out of 11 questions. I thought to myself, wow, only 9? And the other 2 questions were, what kind of barbecue you like, and who do you want to win the NCAA? So I was with the Constitution. Article 4, Section 4, says the federal role is to protect our borders from invasion. Article 1, Section 8 says Congress makes all laws and naturalization. So I want to know what our founders thought. So James Madison wrote a report, the report of 1800 and the report of 1799, when he was a private citizen for the governor, his friend, Governor Jefferson from Virginia, and went through all that. That led me to a book called Vattel's book, called The Law of Nations. It was about 1,000 pages. And they're debating if it's the blood of the mother, the blood of the father, is it the blood of both? So I believe, back to get around this whole kind of thing, Congress makes the laws of naturalization. We need sovereign borders, but without sovereign borders, we do not have a sovereign country. In Obamacare, the only group of people that is not paying the Obamacare are illegal aliens. See, I don't blame them. I lived in Mexico for 2 years. I don't care if it's Hispanics, I don't care if it's Canadians, French, who's from our country. America's built by legal immigration. Our motto is many one. On the feet of the Statue of Liberty are chains being broken. Give us your tired. Give us your weary. Give us everybody. That's America. But not for this handout from our money. $2.7 trillion federal spending right now is a direct check to an individual from the government. That's redistribution of wealth. But we cannot do amnesty. That destroyed California. I want them here, but legally.
How do you propose that? Because it's really impractical to send, they keep telling us for 20 years that it's 12 million, it's more than 12 million. So how do you propose that we take care of the ones that are here?
Well, I disagree that it's impractical, number one. I believe we could do almost anything. We have right now, all your cell phones are on. They're collecting everywhere we say right now and stored it in a 1.2 million square foot office in Utah. We could do it with compassion and kindness. We look at every individual, but look what amnesty did to California. It will never vote conservative again, right? So it's important to understand that. I believe our American citizenship is precious. I have a ton of friends that came here legally that are furious at this. But I believe we do it with love. Romans 12:9 is why I'm running. This is why I'm going to run in this whole thing. 5 years ago, God laid on my heart. It says, hate evil and cling the good. But the first 2 words are the most important. It's the attitude in genuine love. That's how we change abortion. That's how we change redistribution of wealth. So I don't believe this issue is unattainable. I believe we can do it. And don't forget, we're still the freest country in the whole world on immigration. Google the southern border of Mexico and tell me who's freer. That's why I've been endorsed by the Americans for Legal Immigration. Yes,
if we take the Senate in this next election, how do we stop the president from his usurpation of?
Okay, a couple of things. First off, the we is very important to me. I don't believe the we is the Republicans. I believe the we are liberty lover constitutionalists. The we's are, give me 10 Ted Cruz, Mike Lee's, Rand Paul will change the world. Give me 53 McConnells and there's no difference. It is really important. So if the we is the grassroots liberty lovers, Joe Biden had something great last spring. When our 2 senators, both of them voted for cloture of the Second Amendment, gun rights, they actually voted that the Congress would discuss gun rights, right? 3 men said no. And Joe Biden complained that those 3 men, Lee, Cruz, and Paul, stopped what Obama wanted to do on the handguns. The United Nations coming through us to take our handguns. Get rid of the United Nations, don't need them. Washington warned about that. So if we win, here's the part is we already have the power. 2 ways. I'm going to be very clear on this. The 10th Amendment, the states are responsible to protect you as an individual when the federal government usurps their power. Our states should say no to Obamacare. None. No to federally mandated education. None. It's not there. We just need backbone. That's there. Now, Here's the great one. When Senator Cruz was there for 21 hours and 13 minutes and Mike Lee never left his side, when they stood there and said, how do you stop Obamacare? Defund it. But the Senate does not defund. Back to our convention in Hillsborough. Iredell was asked a question. They thought the Senate was more powerful than the House. The Senate was appointed by the legislators, which I still believe should happen. The 17th Amendment should be out, and a legislature should pick the senator. It wouldn't be me, it'd be Tom, but I don't care. That's what we should have. But that is, what happens is they feel the senator got off track. The legislators removed them, or the federal government overset the balance. The governor would bring the senator home. Okay, but that's where they're at. They're supposed to be a slow, deliberating function. The House is our house, the people's. So they put the checkbook in our hands. Just because the president does an executive order, don't fund it. Just because the legislature passes a bill that gets through, don't fund it. So when Ted stood up there, he just read Article 1, Section 7, Clause 1. All bills originate in the House. Oh, we don't do that no more. The Hyde Amendment for abortion, that's when abortion passes federally funding of it, the Hyde Amendment kicks in every year, defunded. But more important than that, there's multiple historical times, but there's a man named James Madison. Ever heard of him? He fought to defund many bills. The classic one is called the Jay Treaty. The Jay Treaty passed constitutionally. Senate sent an ambassador, Jay, to England to do a treaty. He came home, discussed it with the president and the Senate. They signed it. Madison liked England and France, but more France. He thought that Jay Treaty helped England more than us. It's passed constitutionally. He said, we're not going to fund it. He ended up losing the day, losing the battle, but he knew the power it had. So when I hear it's law of the land, I'll give you an example of the law of the land. Obamacare, you must fund it. It's not law of the land. It's only law of the land if it's constitutional. And it's only constitutional if it meets God's natural laws. If tomorrow we said everybody under 5 foot has to go to jail. Sorry, Jody, because she's 5 foot. Is that constitutional? No. It's in the Constitution. It's irrelevant because it attacks her inalienable rights. So what we got to do is understand those kind of powers. So 1850, there was a law of the land called the Fugitive Slave Act. There was a Supreme Court case that said it's law of the land. The law says any white man can say any black person is a slave with no jury or trial, take them back from a northern state and bring them back to the south and get paid for it. It's law of the land. It's constitutional. What happened? Joshua Glover, a slave, got from Missouri to Wisconsin. They said the Tandy courts called the Abel and Booth case and sent him back. Wisconsin legislator, governor, and Supreme Court said, no, he's human. You're not proper. Come and get him. Did. They actually saved some money for him, took him away, sent him to Canada. But they stood up. They nullified it. They were protective shields on Mr. Glover's inalienable rights, life, liberty, and property. I really believe all we got to do is say no. What's the worst thing that happens?
This may sound foolish because it just dawned on me while you were talking. It's not a well thought out idea.
I have well thought out either. I'm running for office. How well thought is that?
Well, we can be silly for a while. In terms of immigration, could we turn the tables on the other side and say that all the people that follow the rules have been discriminated against because they had to follow rules because they came from Barcelona or Stockholm and they didn't? Could we start a class action lawsuit because those people have been discriminated against?
Maybe, but I don't want to use the court as the final arbitrator because that's not their job.
But I wonder if it'd be a great campaign argument.
I don't know. And Mike, Senator Lee asked me a question last June. He goes, Greg, how would you get rid of abortion? What would you do? Constitutionally. Because right now, it passed. How did it become law of the land? Let's go over Constitution. Well, we heard all those who are pro-life Republicans say every 4 years, vote for any Republican president because we got to change the Supreme Court and get 5-4 and get rid of Roe v. Wade. Right? We hear that every single cycle. Let's see how it became law in the land. In 1973, 7 judges said abortion after the Griswold case of '66, Roe v. Wade case, said it's a right. The vote was 7-2. Of the 7, how many Republicans were there? 5. It already beats the purpose. Republicans put it in power. So, do I want to stack the deck and get 20 pro-life judges on the Supreme Court and then get rid of it that way? The court, I already said a half hour ago, the court has no power to enforce their opinion. Why are we listening to this? The 9th Amendment, the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment has no inclusion clause. How do I know that? I read Bingham, who wrote the 14th Amendment. It says it has no inclusion clause. You just read what they wrote. So go back to the Constitution. In the 5th Amendment, every person should never be taken away their life, liberty, or property. So if you make a sanctity of life bill, which Congressman Stockman did in '95, Congressman Paul in 2007, Congressman Brown right now in Georgia has a sanctity of life bill that says life begins at conception. It's a person. Just like we did in 1866, we said an X piece of property, the slave, is a human being. They get inalienable rights. So you make it a law in Congress. Then you have a debate in all 50 states. I guarantee you 3/4 would say, without a doubt, that's a person. I see the heartbeat at 0.21 centimeters every day. Brain activity on the neural, called the notochord, by 19 days. Let's have that debate in love and kindness. Because those who don't believe it, sometimes they just don't know the material. They're just told certain things. So that's why it's important to do with love and kindness. And this idea of, in fact, the Supreme Court said we knew where life began. We didn't change it because all persons. Here's the problem. We start changing the definition of persons. Mr. Peter Singer, who's the bioethicist at Princeton, he's an atheist, animal rights activist. He believes life begins at conception. Because who cares? If that it's a human, but it's not a person. It's only a person if it's beneficial to society. That means you could go cleft palate babies. Old people 53 with a bad kidney. See, on Obamacare, there are death panels, IPDAs. I don't care what you call them. 15 people decide who gets health care and who's not. But the sad part is they exempt themselves and their friends. That's why it's so cool when you know the rule book. You know the rule book. When I win, God willing, I'm going to stand on our border. I'll be the ambassador for our state to make sure that they do their 18 functions and do it correctly. One voice is one more than none. Now with one, it's not one, you got 4 already because you got the other 3 there. Then look back at our state and tell our legislators and you guys, just live. Be you. If you want me to bring home the bacon, do not vote for me. My job is to keep the whole hog. Okay? The only role of government is to protect your property. An income tax should go away. It's your property. It's insane.
Brannon, the $200 trillion unfunded liabilities is almost the noose around our neck as a country financially. How do we get out of it?
I got an answer to that. You can do it the way they want to do it, overprint everything, hyperinflation, and pay it off with less dollars, right? See, again, this goes back to Ecclesiastes said everything's the same. We're all the same. We do the same thing over and over and over again, right? Patrick Henry said only guidepost to the future is the guidepost to the past, right? We have to know that. So our founders, they're debating our money. We had a thing called the Continental, right? Worthless as a Continental. It was useless. It was fiat currency. So they voted literally on August 6, 1787, that we be backed by gold. So in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, the Congress will decide the weight and measures of the gold and silver. And that passed in 1792, called the Coinage Act. I'll go over that in a minute. And then, in Article 1, Section 10, I think Clause 4, if the state allows banks to issue money, the legislation had to be gold or silver. They didn't say what the worth was in the sense of who did the banks, that kind of stuff. It was a gold piece was 245.25 grains of gold. A silver piece was 371.5 grains of silver. They also had copper and they had nickel, but those are the 2 big ones, the dollar and the golden eagle. And they're 15-1. Go have fun. From 1792 to 1913, our dollar increased 17%. 17%. Average GDP per year is 4.5%. From 1879 to 1900, we grew at an average of 60% a decade. 60% a decade. Glenn Beck asked me this question. I said, what if our dollar was as good as gold again? We don't have to be people be coming to us to actually get our money. So, from 1914 to today, because it passed December 23rd, 1923, 1913, the Fed. Depends what you read, but between 96 and 98% of our dollars decreased. You and I are over 50 years of age. August, I think it was 15th, 1971, by executive order, Richard Nixon took us off the Bretton Woods gold standard. It was a quasi-gold standard, at least it held us to something. Our dollar, if you and I put our dollar in the bank when I was 11 and you were 8, and we put our money in the bank, it's worth 15 cents today. See, we know fiat currency only helps the people that make it. Once it trickles down to us, true inflation is about 9%. So what's the answer, Greg? I thought that was all optimistic. I'm not smart enough, okay, but I've read guys who were. Louis Lerman he was placed by Ronald Reagan on the Gold Standard Commission of 1984, and he rewrote the book in 2012. It's a 4-year process to get to that point, so there's no deflation, no inflation, and you don't know the price of dollars, and you let it balance out. Whatever the M1 supply is today basically stays there. Whatever the gold is, it stays there, so we reboot everything. Boom. You know, in his book, he recommends the Fed still stay to print money as if, like, if we all start turning our dollars in to get gold, they'd print less. And that'd be it. I don't even need that. The market will dictate that. And then also, the Club for Growth has a book called the 21st Century Gold Standard, another plan how to do it. So there are men that's got to take the guts to do it. Everybody's afraid of this elastic currency we need. No, no, no. If all of us had more money today, if all of us had $1 million in our pockets, and the Hardys over here knew that, it's going to cost $80 a burger. You know what I mean? That's true economics. So what we have to do is let the market dictate that. I believe we can do that. If we do that, just picture if we had a 10-year span of 4% GDP with a true dollar, here's what happens. All our Social Security money that's entitled, we have to be honest and go, it's not there in the future, but all over a certain age we'll get it because Americans keep their word. That's our money, not theirs, number one. But if you got back a real dollar that was worth $1, it's a whole lot better for everybody. Because when you have inflation like that, your pension plans are worth less. Your life insurance policies are worth less. So I believe it's, to me, I talk about safety of life being the number one issue in the sense of an issue, but overall thing that helps everything will be a solid currency because you can fix entitlements, you know, get Obamacare out of the 1/5 of the economy. Those kind of things happen with a solid dollar. Also, a solid dollar would help a lot if we go back to what we should do, because again, back to the Constitution, the first role of the government is a common defense. Why was the last time that we did a gasoline refinery in America was 1973? Why aren't we exporters of natural gas? We have the most in the world. See, why don't we get the government out of it? Here's my idea with the Western lands. Nevada is about 84% federal land. No, no, no. In Article 4, Section 2 of the Constitution, how the federal government makes money is to sell its land to the states. So sell it out. Sell it back to the states, let the states buy it. If the states are smart, they would not buy it. They let entrepreneurs buy it. And not conglomerates that are getting, crony capitalism that gets the corporate welfare. True entrepreneurs. You're not going to get tax practice to buy, you're not going to get tax breaks to buy the land. Let them go harvest the natural gas, the coal, whatever's there. Anwar, if Anwar was a picture of a football field in your head, and just the west of Anwar is the Pudong Sound is where the largest oil reserves ever found in North America. It's right in the same area. The amount of space they got to drill on at that football field is the size of a postage stamp. Why do we want to be energy dependent? That makes us weaker. Why do we want a weaker dollar? That makes us weaker. Don't forget, our founders wrote all this stuff in the midst of just fighting a revolution. And when they fought, only 3% of Americans went to war against Great Britain. Peaked out about 25–30%. So when they pledged their life, their fortune, their sacred honor, they meant it. They did not know the outcome. Lexington Concord was a very interesting day. King George sent an army out to get 2 men to bring him back to London to be hung. Hancock and Samuel Adams. They got out of there just in the nick of time. In fact, during the war, he offered amnesty to everybody except for those 2 men, the Sons of Liberty. He wanted them dead. So I just think we're down this path. I'm tired of trying to fix the band-aids on these little things. Just picture a huge Leviathan beast with all these tentacles in our lives. You fight the tentacles, or you have your state legislators or county commissioners who don't know the real Constitution, and they're not fighting for you. I think you got to take this knife, go to D.C. and stick it in the heart of the belly, right of the beast. Boom. See, I believe I'd be a missionary in my life right now, and I believe that missionary is D.C. Without America, there is no more lamp of liberty. What time is it?
8 o'clock.
Okay, a couple more questions.
Number one, EPA you're gonna have to deal with before you turn it back over to the states.
EPA was an executive order by Richard Nixon, defunded.
Defund.
Everything, the same answer. Defund them.
Yeah.
Done. But now, it's not, I'm a surgeon, so you triage. You can't do things tomorrow. You walk your step through it, you know logically, but the key is, the fuel to all this is this, our dollars. What if our state passed a law that's not going to send all the money to D.C. except for constitutional functions? Okay.
And then you have a big fight again. But
All this stuff I'm going to fight. You agree with me?
But Merkel's already tried to get her gold back from Germany. We've been keeping it here. She wants her gold back, and now we're not sending it back to Germany.
Yeah, don't use the word we. These are people in the government, not us.
That's right, I agree. But the question is do we even have?
I don't know. If we win this race, let's go find out. But I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist on this. I believe it's somewhere.
Yeah.
We just have to do is we have to understand, ask these kind of questions. But I know there's the gold in the world somewhere. But we have to get back to who we are. Fiat currency kills you and me. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to find out, I know you're very much about the Constitution, I understand that.
Really?
But I want to know what you're going to do about going up there and going against someone, our president specifically, who is completely, has no regard for our Constitution.
I don't blame him, because we know who he is. I blame the House funding his projects, and that's the Republican Party. See, I believe crossing the aisle, compromise, all those kind of key words. Compromise on core constitutional functions is not compromise at all. It's defeat. I'll give you an example. We're at the Elk Lodge right now, right? And here's how I'm going to stand on this. When all of us compromise, we got to get this one job done. We have to repaint this room before we can leave. Would we compromise on that? Pick the color, who's going to do what, who's going to do scaffolding, who's going to roll, who's going to do this, who's going to clean up? I bet we would do that, have a committee do all that. But the one question we should ask ourselves before we do anything is, did the Elk Lodge give us a contract to paint their room? If they didn't, we just destroy their property. They have no contract for education, for EPA, for health care. They don't. So the fight's going to be, well, Greg, you're not for health care. No, I love health care so much. I want the individual to decide how they're going to eat, how they're going to work out, what kind of vitamins, vaccines, their life. Greg, you don't want federal government education? No, I love education so much, I know education does not equal schooling. In 1840, according to John Taylor Gatto, the average American's complex literacy rate, most of them spoke 2 or 3 languages, usually Hebrew, Latin, or Greek, plus their own. Complex literacy rate. The average American, with no NEA, no federal functions, none, was 93 to 100% of Americans. Within one generation of slavery, we were in the 80 to 90% complex literacy rate. Education, I believe the best education generation of our time was not our founders, but their parents, who said challenge everything, and it led to this. Common Core is no different than Race to the Top, which is no different than No Child Left Behind and Goals 2000. It goes back to the Carnegie Endowment of 1917, where Rockefeller, Carnegie, University of Chicago, Harvard, all these schools, their goal was to teach our children to be subordinate to the federal government. Okay? Read John Taylor Gatto, it'll make you cry. America is built on individual choice. I want kids educated, but not to be a worker bee in an industry unless they want to do that. See, our children are, here's the question of education, we have to ask ourselves, are our children, these are 2 different answers, they can't be both, creatures of the state or a gift of God? It's one or the other. There's no in between. Woodrow Wilson knew the answer. He said, we need two forms of education. One for the elites, a classical model education, to be the rulers over the worker bees. And who's the worker bee? Look in the mirror. No more. When you pull the veil back, they get weaker and weaker in their position. All they can do is attack me at Honolulu. All they can do is attack us. I'm so pumped because we're this close. We're this close. Orwell said, in the ultimate day of deceit, and if the Affordable Care Act is not it, it's not affordable, it's not health care, you know, all this kind of thing. The ultimate day of deceit, telling the truth, is a revolutionary act. I'm asking you guys, go to GregBrannon.com. I got Mike back here with a bunch of stuff. We need right now for you to be revolutionaries. I need volunteers. Call 50, call 100. This whole plan, I back Brannon, that can walk out and walk, call people up. We do need money. I don't care if it's a $10 or $5,200. We're 9 days away, 9 days away from this state having a guy. Now I'm talking about myself. This is very weird talking about myself because I know Mr. Cruz, I know Mr. Lee, I know Mr. Paul. Smart men. What do they have in common? They never held elected office in their life. Number two, they keep their word. They're going to stand on the Constitution, never wavered. Two of them have backed me. I believe our state's that close to having that kind of answer. Mr. Till has said the framework that Burr has for the health care plan is a good framework. It's still nationalized health care. I call it Obamacare light. So what I want is, I want that revolution to come over. The man back there, the very most important question in the world, I was done trusting anybody. That's why I got involved. And your job is to keep doing your due diligence. Look how I'm attacked at Hana every single day. No attack on the words, on the debate. They don't know the answers. You know, not because I'm smarter, I just happen to read. Like I prepared for this. Pelvic surgery, not my body. Your body, pelvic surgery, OB. Okay. So that's why it's important that we look into our due diligence. I believe America's phenomenal. We've not seen our best days. We got the prejudice that we did with different religions, different skin color, different genders. We had those. But we know